Gen Z are lazy, Gen Z are weak, Gen Z are fragile. We've heard it all, so should you just not hire any Gen Z at all? Here is the thing, you will need to hire Gen Z, otherwise you will get left behind. By 2030, Gen Z will make 30% of the entire workforce. So today, I'm going to solve the Gen Z enigma for you. So why should you listen to me in the first place? I'm leading a company of 20 employees where the average age is 27. We grew from 2 to 20 employees in less than 12 months, and we work across multiple time zones in more than 10 different countries. Managing such a young remote workforce taught me a few things about how to manage Gen Z. The job market is changing really fast, and the old playbook of hiring people to go to an office from 9 to 5, it's kind of over. I will go through 7 points that for me are the most important to manage a Gen Z workforce. I divide it in 3 different categories. I will keep the 2 last ones for later, but the first one, which is in my opinion the most important, is money. So here is a good example. What you see on that graph is that financial success look extremely different based on which age category you belong to. As you can see, for the average person, someone being financially successful makes 270K. For Gen Z, they consider someone financially successful only if they make $587,000 per year. Same for the net worth. On average, people consider someone financially successful if they have an overall net worth of 5.4 million, whereas for Gen Z, they consider someone financially successful only if they have more than $9,469,000. That illustrates the point, and it's also the first point I want to start with. The first point is actually to pay your people well. So for 99% of the population, you might give them amazing perks, like nice PTO, they can take holiday whenever they want, they can work from anywhere, you're like very flexible on the hours, but at the end of the day, people work because they want to make money. So all the rest won't matter if you underpay your people. So number one is pay them well, but I think it goes with a caveat. But what goes also really well with the first point of paying them well is that you want to gamify everything. You want to give them the right incentive, and you want to have incentive in every role. And that was the same for me when I was working at previous companies earlier in my career. I always hated the fact that I would get the same salary at the end of the month. So here what I wanted to do is to walk you through the incentive we have in place at ColdIQ for every single role in the business. So here is our incentive structure at ColdIQ. So we're going to start with the very obvious one with sales. So here what we do is that if someone closes an agency client, we give them 15% of the first month retainer. Then we also want to incentivize the salespeople to close quarterly plan and bi-yearly plan. So if they close a deal and the client pay upfront for 3 months, they get a 25% commission. And if they close a client that pays for 6 months upfront, they get a 35% commission, again on the first month's retainer. We also have a coaching program. So for that, it's very straightforward. It's 10% of the coaching. Then we also start to be like a proper sales department. So we have Fivos that's leading sales. So he gets 10% for every deal that people under him are closing. The reason why I ended up with that rev share is that before we were giving a flat percentage on the retainer that the GTME was managing. I'm going to use CSM, so it's going to be much easier to understand. So when a customer success manager is managing a client, they used to get a fixed percentage of the entire retainer. So for example, if they were managing a client that was generating 5K per month, they were getting 5% of those 5K per month. So they were getting $250 out of those 5,000. So the incentive was for them to manage as many clients as possible so they could make more money at the end of the month. The thing we realized was that we had a few bad apples that were just doing a horrible job actually keeping those clients. The clients were very unsatisfied, they were churning. The issue was that we were so good at closing deals that for them it didn't really matter, because if they were losing one client, another one would come in and they would still make the same money. And so here, what we ended up with is that we have a rev share that starts at 2% on month 1, and the longer they keep the clients, the more money they make. So that 2% rev share increased by 2% every month, and it capped 20% after 10 months. And so here the idea is that first they have an incentive to manage multiple clients, but for the clients they manage, they also want to keep those clients for as long as possible. And so if we close a new deal, the client go to them, first month they're going to make 2%, might not be a lot of money, but if they manage to keep that client for 10 months, they get a 20% rev share on that retainer. So that starts to be very interesting. If you like the person manage a 5K a month client, they end up with like an extra 1,000 per month. Then we also try to incentivize for upsell. So here what we do is that if we have a CSM that managed to upsell an existing client, they get 20% of the first month upsell. And then we also created a referral program because we incentivize the people to write a lot on LinkedIn. And so if they end up getting inbound leads coming from the content they publish, if they refer a prospect that end up closing inside of the agency, they also get a 10% rev share from that new client. So here you can see that the goal for us is always to try to align the incentive. It's like we want people to work hard, but you cannot expect people to work hard if you don't give them anything in return. And so here, it doesn't matter if you work in sales, if you work in service delivery, we always want to find a way to get people motivated. We always want to give them a base, but we also want to show them that if they work hard, it's also normal that they get paid more at the end of the month. Now that we are done with the money parts, the next key word you should remember is freedom. Freedom is extremely important to Gen Z, and freedom can mean a lot of things. So the first one is going to be geographical freedom. So we're like a fully remote company. We have people working from a lot of different countries. We have a lot of our employees that actually move places all the time. So we have the case with Monica. Monica is usually based in Poland. She's sometimes visiting us in Barcelona, sometimes she travels. And at the end of the day, we don't really care where people work from. For us, what's important is that the work is getting done. And it doesn't really matter if people want to travel, if they want to go to Bali, if they want to go to South America, it doesn't really matter. As long as they deliver a top-notch service to our clients and that the work is done, it doesn't really matter where they work from. And we have surveyed a lot of them, and they actually really enjoy that part, that we don't force anyone to come in an office. For them to say it's extremely difficult to find nowadays, and they are really thankful that they can work from anywhere they want. The only drawback with this is that you really need to have like a remote first mindset in the way that you operate the companies, like the way you host the meetings, the way you communicate on Slack. We try to have a very async culture. We try to minimize the amount of meetings, to not have people stuck in meetings all the time. But we also try to combine this with a few physical events per year. We try to meet with the team in Barcelona a few times a year, so we've organized an offsite in Mykonos. And the goal for us is going to be to organize either 1 or 2 offsites every year so we can make sure that the team actually get to know each other and can spend time together. The second type of freedom is the time freedom. So they want to have flexible hours. Reason being is that a lot of people work on a very different schedule. I think that we are really used to work for companies and having that 9 to 5 ingrained in all of us. But at the end of the day, you have people that work amazingly in the morning and you have other people that work amazing at night. The good example with Ivan is like our head of Demand Gen. He's always the first at the office. You're going to see him at 9 a.m. every day. He's going to sit at his desk, and that's when he does his best work. And then we're going to have the extreme opposite with Dan, that sometimes he's going to slack you at 4 a.m. asking you a random question. So for him, it's very important that we let him work whenever he wants. Sometimes he shows up at the office at 1 p.m. In a lot of companies, this would be like ground for firing. For us, we know that his zone of genius is actually when he can work when he feels like it. So as long as the work is done, it doesn't really matter to us when people are working. One thing that we really try to implement for every single person working at ColdIQ is that we value output much more than the time they spend in front of a screen. It doesn't matter to me how long it takes when they work, as long as the work is being done, that are on time for internal meetings and for client meetings. The fifth point that still belongs to the freedom category, you need trust over control. It would be very easy to assume that since they're really young, you'll probably need to micromanage them. It ended up being very far from the truth for me. I've had multiple instances where whenever we were facing a really big problem in the business, actually entrusting someone with the task of fixing that problem, it always ended up in a better situation when I trusted the person entirely to figure it out rather than me telling them what to do. Of course, you cannot give full freedom to people without building a accountability system. We are in a very luxurious position because below 20 people is very easy to see who's doing a great job and who's doing a bad job. But now that the company is still growing extremely fast, we are trying to set up the right systems in place to make sure that we can track who's doing a great job and who's doing a bad job. So we're setting up KPI in place, how long are our CSM keeping the clients, what is the close rate. We start to have like a few key metrics around the business that allows us to keep the pulse on what's happening. So point number 6 is recognition. Gen Z want to feel seen inside of the company and outside of the company. And so the way we do that typically is that first we want to do that internally. So when people are doing a great job, even if we're like a remote company and we cannot celebrate in an office, we always try to highlight when people are doing a great job. So that goes from doing a shout out to someone, taking a screenshot. This morning, for example, I had one VP of sales of a client we recently worked with that was speaking very highly of Harry that was managing his account. So just took a simple screenshot, posted it on our Slack just to congratulate Harry. And I think those small touches showing to people that you actually see that are doing a great job, extremely important, even more when you're like a remote company. Second is that they want to be seen externally. And for that, we've actually found an amazing way of doing things is that we incentivize everyone to build a personal brand. Because we want them to feel seen inside of the company, but outside of the company, we want to show them that are much more than just a small gear in the system. So we've built an entire playbook to really help every single employee, if they want to, we don't force anyone, to develop their personal brand on LinkedIn. So they have access to a designer, they have access to templates, we're like engaging with the post of everyone. So we really want them to be seen as an authority outside of the company as well. It doesn't matter at which seniority they are in the company. If they want to build a personal brand, they can do it at ColdIQ. And I think combining that internal visibility with that external visibility by developing the personal brand is something that's extremely important to them. Another thing that me and my co-founder are trying to do is that we don't just want to share the success and make the success about us, but we want to make it about the team. We're always trying to post a lot of pictures with them, like showing that everything we've achieved is not only because of us, but it's because of the entire team, and also try to show that in our content. So here's like a few examples of pictures, picture with the team in Mykonos, picture of the leadership team, some picture of us in Barcelona. And the last point is that community is also extremely important. I think it's the case for everyone, not only for Gen Z, but everyone want to have friends at work. That's also something we try to foster between the team. We try to meet every now and then in person so people can get to know one another. And we also saw that it really enhanced the collaboration. If people have never seen before, getting a Slack message from someone you've actually never met in real life, it's going to make you much more unlikely to answer them. And we have seen that like by trying to get the team together in person, it really fostered a collaboration. So we really try to do that as often as possible. Another rule that I've tried to maintain since the beginning of the company is the dinner rule, as I call it. So in previous work experience, before I started ColdIQ with Mish, I worked for a bunch of companies. You couldn't know in advance next to who you would be sitting. And I always remember that those company dinners was always extremely boring. And so now that it's our company, we want to make sure that those team dinners are actually extremely enjoyable. And so one of the rules that we try to maintain when we hire someone is that if you were to sit down next to that person at a company dinner, would that conversation be enjoyable? If it's not, it's almost not a culture match and we don't want to work with that person. And we've tried to maintain that to grow from 2 to 20, and we will keep maintaining that rule moving forward. People also need to feel that other people care about them. And so we had one recent episode where one of our team members got extremely sick. And during that time, we tried to give the best support we could. A lot of team members reached out, brought him foods. Everyone was constantly checking on him. I don't want to get into the cringy aspect saying that like the company is a family, because I don't think a company will ever be like family. I always like to use the example from Reed Hastings. He's saying that a company should never be a family, but it should be like a high performance sport team. That's really what we strive to be at ColdIQ as well. But I think even when one of your teammates is sometimes down, I think it's important that they feel supported, that they have like other people that care about them. And so that's also something we've tried to foster since the beginning. That's sometimes very difficult to do in a remote environment, but despite the distance, we really try to show that like we care for people and that other people are caring about their colleagues as well. So here you have it. Pay them well, find the right incentive, give them the freedom to work from anywhere, give them flexible hours, trust over control, recognition, and community over company. I think with those 7 points, you should be able to build the best Gen Z team ever assembled. So once again, managing Gen Z is not about giving them some fancy perks, giving them some free therapy sessions, fancy ping pong tables, and a chef at the office. I can summarize it with 3 words: money, freedom, and recognition. So here it is. I've shared a playbook that allows us to scale from 2 to 20 people. Use it, adapt it, make it your own, and I hope you're gonna build the best team possible. If you found that valuable, please subscribe for more tips about scaling a business. And if you have any questions or comments about managing a Gen Z team, feel free to ask any questions. I will make sure to answer any comments. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.